Near the end of last year, after discussions with my support nurses, the decision was made for me to start receiving counselling, which is provided by the Mustard Tree at Derriford Hospital, to help and support me with my mental health and emotional well-being. Since it is Mental Health Awareness Week this week, I've made the decision to share with you all at home my struggles with my mental health and emotional well-being over the last year. Over the years, attitudes and treatment of mental illness has improved. However, the stigma surrounding mental health is very much still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. Some of you who may know me personally may know that I like to be in control of who I am, of what I do. I think through all potential outcomes of decisions and situations. So being told I have cancer put that way of thinking completely on the back burner, and I went into as what I could probably only describe as survival mode. The path was laid out and I was guided down it without much thought needed for myself. My life revolved around having cancer because I had to fight. But although I was fighting, looking back, I kind of just see a shadow of myself operating on autopilot. Life was, in a sense, very fast-paced from the initial MRI. I had more scans, blood tests, appointments, discussions with social and psych teams, even operations, which all led up to me beginning treatment in June. I did highlight in a video last year from when I was on treatment of wobbles I had had, of realization that I had cancer, the realization of the situation and just how big it was for me. But once treatment had finished, my focus then shifted very quickly onto recovery, onto the 3-month scan, onto Nativity the musical. But once all those milestones had been completed, it all became much more of a struggle. Without clinical appointments and the like to focus on, I had a lot more time on my hands and I just didn't know what to do with it. I was still very fatigued, still am. I wasn't feeling 100% well. So I had all this time which I just spent reflecting on what had happened, how quickly everything had happened. My life completely changed and it felt like I'd completely lost control of everything and who I was. After sharing with my social and psych team how I was feeling, they suggested I receive counselling, which is provided through the Mustard Tree at Derriford, to try and help me through this time which I'd got stuck in. Considering I've been quite open about my journey of having cancer and I've been sharing it all on such a public platform, I imagine it's quite surprising to hear that I'm not very good at opening up and talking about how I feel and my emotions, my problems, because I feel like that would be burdening people with problems and they've got their own to kind of deal with. I keep it all bottled up and I struggle asking for help. I think that I can deal with it all by myself and get through it, but that's just not the case and it's not true. I feel like The cancer snatched away my identity. I mean, I had danced from the age of 3, acted from a young age, studied and trained to have a career in performing arts, entertainment. But Timmy took all of that away. And the truth is, I don't know who I am without it, because it's all I've ever known. With my counsellor, we are working to discover who the real me is, what my values are, what's important to me, about me, and without kind of thinking what other people might think about me, and am I just being who people want me to be? Who is Katie Marie Martin? Counselling or therapy is hard. It's a long, arduous process, almost like an expedition, because you're digging through memories and events which have caused you emotion and affected, possibly even changed who you are, who the real you is. I'm not going to sit here and reel off what's been discussed between me and my counsellor within the confidential 4 walls, but I'd been so focused on my physical health that I completely neglected my mental health. It wasn't a priority for months and months and months, so when life, or the new normal, resumed, all those feelings and emotions which I hadn't spared a thought for came crashing down and hit me like a brick wall. It felt, and occasionally still feels, like whilst everyone else's lives continued, mine got put on pause, and now I need to try and catch up. It's like I got pushed back to square one. Now need to find a new destination and have no map to follow. The fatigue that comes from having cancer anyway is enough, but with all these feelings and all these thoughts and all these emotions on top of that is just exhausting. And sometimes I just don't have the energy or the motivation to live my life, because I know what my life was. I know what I've lost. During the beginning of this year, my mental health had deteriorated. My counsellor had noticed some changes in my appearance, in me, my behaviour, so wanted to reassess me using their form that they assess you with to try and find out how I was feeling. So in mid-March, she diagnosed me as moderately depressed. It took me quite some time to accept and admit how I was feeling. When I look back now, I can quite comfortably say that I was depressed, and part of me is still now. There's no quick fix for depression. It took me longer to come to terms with having depression than it did to actually having cancer, and I think that's down to the stigma that does surround mental health, in that I almost felt responsible for being depressed. I thought back and would say, like, how did I let it get this bad? I should have gone outside more, I should have seen my friends more, then maybe I wouldn't have felt the way I did, and still do. But it's not your fault. Telling people I've got depression or I'm on antidepressants at the moment doesn't surprise many people, because of what I've been through. I've got cancer at the end of the day. It's changed my life quite dramatically. But there doesn't need to be a reason behind it. There doesn't need to be an excuse as to why you're feeling depressed or why you've got anxiety. Mental health is very real. We don't always know why it happens. There are things out there that can improve your mental health and your emotional well-being, but at the end of the day, you can't stick a plaster on it. It takes time. I'm on antidepressants. I've been on antidepressants for about 6 or 7 weeks now. My mood has lifted, and at first I didn't want to go on them. I don't want to go on any more medication. I'm already on enough painkillers. But they did urge me to, because I was at rock bottom and I just couldn't get myself out of that place. Having these antidepressants gave me that little nudge out of the rut to be able to then work on myself and improve from there. Talking to my counsellor today, I could be on these tablets for another 6 months. It's not a quick fix, and even after I come off of those meds, I'm still going to have down days. I'm still going to have really good days. I'm going to have just fine days, because I'm human. Now, as I've said, I'm not normally one to discuss mental health, and when I first got diagnosed, I didn't tell anyone. I kept it to myself. I kept it bottled up. But through having counselling, I've kind of learnt how to open up about myself, and that it's okay to tell other people and to share those problems. And I now have with close family and friends, and with all of you now, it seems. And I do feel better for it. Thank you very much for watching this week. I know this has kind of been a different type of vlog, but this is happening in my life, and I think it's important to talk about it and to share and to raise awareness to mental health and what it does to people. You're not on your own. It's okay not to be okay. Thank you all for watching. See you next time. Bye. Had deteriorated